Welcome to the Two Togs Talk podcast, where two photographers with hundreds of weddings worth of experience give you meaningful insights into what works and what doesn't, reveal juicy wedding nightmares from actual weddings, and what you can do to make your wedding day more magical. He's Garrett, the old pro, who still cries at daddy-daughter dances and who definitely steals an extra cupcake on his way out.
She's Gianna, the young gun, who's always got the extra safety pin or granola bar handy and who is currently planning her own wedding. Together, we can help make your biggest day more memorable, more relaxed, and more personal to you and your vision. Okay, guys, welcome back to another well-rounded episode of the Two Togs Talk podcast. We have a special guest today. Here's what I want you to imagine. I want you to imagine your wedding day having all of the pieces laid out perfectly. I want you to have the most memorable day with the most memorable people, and I want you to have the world's greatest dance party at your wedding day. Literally the best, with flash mobs, with light up sticks, and your groom is in a wife beater by the end of the thing. We have that person in the room today going to spit some insights at you. Her name is Blair. Welcome, Blair.
Thank you.
She is awesome. She had that exact wedding just barely a month ago. So we figured she would be a great resource to have around as far as answering, hey, we just got through this whole process and now we want to know kind of what your thoughts were. Hey, what worked well? What didn't work so well? So she is awesome. We are going to get into a lot of cool details. So anyway, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
We got lots of cool things to talk about, but I want to talk about first, I kind of want to just set the table here a little bit. So give the listeners a little bit of an idea of kind of what your wedding logistically looked like as far as like where you got married and how many people, and just kind of set the table there a little bit.
Yeah. So we got married in Helena, Montana. It was a December wedding. December 14th was our day. And we had around 230 guests was what it ended up being. We had our ceremony at the chapel here at Carroll College, and then we ended up having our reception out at a barn, 10-15 minute drive away from the ceremony. And yeah, it was electric. As you stated before, we had a really great dance party, which is just kind of speaks to the people that we had. We just had a really fun group. I consider 230 people to be a pretty big wedding. So yeah, big wedding, fun wedding. It was amazing. I'm excited to talk about it.
Awesome. There was lots of cool pieces to this puzzle and lots of cool pieces to that day that we want to talk about. But I want to talk about at the very beginning of this thing, right? So you got proposed to, right? So talk to us a little bit about how that all worked. And
yeah.
Did you see it coming? Did you not? I mean, like.
No, I did not. So my husband's name is Tug. Yes, that's his real name, not a nickname. T-U-G. So he proposed to me in November of 2023. So we had 13 months of being engaged. Did not see the proposal coming at all. He was taking his 5th year playing football at Carroll, and I had graduated already. And so I was at one of his games on Saturday game day in Helena, and his whole family was in town because they always came to town to watch football games. So that was not out of the norm. They had rented an Airbnb for the weekend, and he ended up proposing to me that night after the game. His whole family was there, and he kind of just asked me to go outside and talk, and dropped to one knee and did the whole thing. And then to my surprise, my entire family then filed in to the backyard of the Airbnb, and it was super special. Our whole family was there, all of our friends and our people. So that was awesome. And I just feel like I have to share this because it's a testament to how much I was surprised. I had a really pretty manicure. I had pink pretty nails painted that morning, but the football game was really a nail biter, literally. And I peeled all of my nails off during the football game. And so then when I actually got proposed to, my nails were hideous.
It was a nail peeler.
It was a nail peeler. Absolutely. So that was a bit devastating for me, but it was fun that it was a surprise.
But were you in sweatpants? I mean, that's what I hear.
No, he was in purple sweatpants.
Oh, that guy.
So that's really important. Yeah. If that doesn't paint the picture of what we looked like that night. But it was all love, all happiness.
Yep. Purple sweatpants on the proposal, wife
Yep.
beater at the wedding. Let's go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's who he is.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Love
Okay,
him.
so we know you. We've been around you. We know you are the bubbly type A kind of person. That's why we love you. One of the things. So talk to me at the very beginning here. So you said yes, right? When did the planning process start for you? Like, was that like, had you guys had those conversations before you had started this, or was that just kind of now I guess we're gonna go and figure this out, or where did the planning process start for you?
So we hadn't really seriously talked about any of that. It was just kind of I would make jokes like every week, when are you going to propose? But nothing as far as actually planning out a wedding. So we kind of just hit the ground running right away. I am very much type A, very much a planner. And so I wanted to get on to things pretty much as soon as I could. So I would say we probably took the first 2 or 3 weeks just sort of deciding what time of year, and then kind of narrowing on actual dates that we could even do this. We ended up landing on a winter wedding just because, given the timeline, I think a lot of people, at least in my close circle, have gotten engaged in the summer/fall, and then to give them about a year to plan for things, they also get married in the summer/fall. Since we got engaged in the winter, it just kind of made sense with our timeline and our planning to do it about a year later. So yeah, I mean, we just kind of narrowed down a date, and from there kind of worked from the biggest to the smallest pieces. So booking our biggest, most important vendors, being the venue, number one. You guys were going to be our photographers no matter what, so had to make sure you were available. Thank goodness you were. Go you. Yeah, and then food, caterers, bartending, DJ, all that kind of just fell into place.
So you kind of answered my question for me, because I wanted to talk about the idea of kind of the non-traditional date thing, right? So you guys decided winter versus the traditional May through September thing. Purely logistic. There was no kind of like, oh, this is a cool time of year for us, or this was just kind of the basic,
No, it ended up being a really cool thing. Initially, I didn't really know how I felt about it. There's pros and cons to any time of year, and so as you know, and as everyone knows, summer and fall weddings are amazing because the weather is usually great, and there's perks that come with that. But very quickly, I started really leaning into the winter wedding thing, and it was so fun. And I would highly, highly recommend it, not only because you're not competing with nearly as many, if any, other wedding dates, but it's just so different. I mean, the small details are different. The types of flowers that you're going to use are something you don't usually see. For sure. You can look at different dresses with sleeves. Gianna and I were just having the dress conversation and how fun that is. So if you're the type of person that gets excited about really leaning into those details, so fun to do a winter wedding, especially in Montana.
Yeah. As long as you can put up with the cold weather.
Yeah, exactly. We lucked out. It ended up being, 30 degrees?
It
on
was
the wedding
it
day?
wasn't
warmer than not.
Yeah.
Not cold.
We had the fun faux fur shawls, which were amazing. They were both actually convenient and cute. So all the things. Yeah.
Did you have a backup plan as far as
Nope.
if the weather was going to be real nasty and gross? Did you have some sort of idea how you were going to navigate that?
No, I was gonna say, Garrett and Gianna, what do we do when it's really cold out and we want to take pictures outside? And I was gonna do whatever you told us. So
Freeze.
Green screen Photoshop. Is
Yep.
what we do. Yes.
Yep,
No,
exactly. I was honestly of the mindset that if it snows, how amazing, how beautiful. If it doesn't, still going to be beautiful because it's you guys taking the photos, and then it's a lot safer for people driving. So just got to look at it from the positive side.
One of the things that we always talk to clients about and try to hopefully reiterate to clients is whether you're getting married in the summer, whether you're getting married in the winter, don't be afraid of weather, right? Like if the weather starts to get weird, if you got a thunderstorm coming through in the summer or in the winter, if it's really cold and snowy, weather can do some really cool things to your photos and your video,
Totally.
right? Like, and embrace it and love it because there's a lot of cool things that we can do creatively in those aspects as well. Okay, so again, back to the beginning as far as the planning process. So you got engaged, you decided on a date. Where are you finding your information about wedding planning? Or where are you finding your vendors? Where are you getting all these inspiration? Like where did you go first? Where did that process go?
I would say 95% of that was just word of mouth. You guys were a huge resource for me and for Tug just because you're in the industry. So I think that's one avenue is talking. If you have a specific vendor that's in the industry, it's helpful to get their recommendations. And then a big thing for me, I was just kind of lucky in that I had several friends getting married that same year that were a few months ahead of the planning schedule because they were in the summer and the fall for their weddings. So totally piggybacked off of them. I'm like, hey, who's your DJ? Okay, this guy, I'm going to book him too because you said that he's great. So I'm going to trust that he's great. And he was great. So honestly, that took off a really big load just using people's opinions that I really trusted.
Sure. Always interested in that, kind of how we can get the proper information to people and how they go about all this stuff. I mean, there's walk down any aisle at Target and you can find a bunch of wedding magazines, and Instagram is all over the place. You can find things there. But I think that especially when you're talking a local market, if you can find people in that market, whether those are vendors, whether those are people that have dealt with those vendors or those people, you're just going to get a more accurate view of what is there for you, right?
Totally.
So how did you go about prioritizing what vendors to reach out to like first in the process?
Mm-hmm. It was definitely strategic in that we laid it out in our order of priority. So, as you may have picked up on the intro to this, the DJ and the dance floor was going to be a really big part of our day. We knew that going in. So that was one of the, the most important decisions we made as far as who we were selecting. And also, with a lot of different vendors, there's going to be different package sizes with different pricing options. That was something that we were willing to go biggest package. We want all the lights, all the sound, all the hours of entertainment. And then with that, we would just kind of cut back on other areas, which there ended up being quite a few that I just was not as picky about. And I didn't really feel the need to, spend the extra money or, do the extra things for. And so it was definitely an order of this is the most important thing, this is the least important thing, and we're going to plan and spend accordingly.
We just literally filmed a podcast that talked about that how you should go about booking your vendors and in what order. Mm-hmm. And it all comes down to what is important to you, right?
Yeah.
What is a priority to you? If it's not, don't feel obligated to put things in your wedding day that are just, this is what everybody does. No, okay. Well,
totally.
what do you do? What's important to you? What's in, and that's what makes weddings more unique, more personable. These things there's a lot of pieces that happen on a weekly basis with a lot of different people. And sometimes they can feel a little cookie cutter, but a lot of people put their spin on it by having, a DJ that's going to accompany on a dance floor. And if you were at the party, you knew that you guys prioritized your DJ because you could see that. You could tell that, right? Like, this is one of the most epic dance parties that we've been a part of.
It's the greatest compliment.
Just in terms of the number of people, I believe at one point the music went from Mariah Carey to like AC/DC, like in a just
that
a
sounds
quick,
about right.
like a quick turnaround, like one after the other. And I was like, there is no, it was Mariah Carey, then it was Pitbull. That's what it was.
Oh,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Bang to bang. And I was like, there is no other wedding on the planet right now that is going from Mariah Carey Christmas music to Pitbull.
But we are here.
But we did it.
Yeah.
And it was awesome.
That's great.
And the dance party, like not even just the dance party, your guys' coordinated dances.
Oh yeah, yeah. If you didn't
that was a
catch
special
that,
touch.
Garrett did say there were flash mobs with an S.
Yeah,
there were
plural.
2. That was very, very much planned. That was pretty.
How long did you guys work on that? How long did the choreography? Who came up with the choreography, and B, how long did you guys practice?
So for a little backstory, we did a bunch of my female friends and family members. We did a flash mob to Dancing Queen, and that actually was originated from my sister's wedding. So my older sister got married last year, and we kind of just decided on her bachelorette party trip to, I don't know, plan a flash mob. I have no idea whose idea that was, but we all just took it and ran with it. So that was hilarious. It was a hit. We did it at her wedding, and then I got engaged, and it was like, well, obviously
We already know
have
the
to do it
choreography.
again.
Let's just go.
Exactly. So it was funny because at my sister's wedding, it was probably a group of 10 or 12 people, just whoever was on her bachelorette party trip. Then at my wedding, it was like, well, all those people are still invited, and then I'm going to teach my new crew. So there were probably like 30 people doing this
There
dance.
was a lot.
It was a lot
impressive.
of moving parts. And yeah, I was impressed with how it turned out. So that was the story on that one. And then little more backstory. The second one was I did a dance with both of my brothers, and kind of just fit with my relationships with both of them. My older brother I danced with first to I Hope You Dance, so like the first minute or so of that song. And then I handed it off to my younger brother, at which point our DJ did a little mix up and Just Dance by Lady Gaga started playing. And then we continued to do a full-on flash mob for that song. That one, I think we just learned that like a month before. We're all very musical in my family, so we just kind of whipped out the choreography in probably like an hour. Yeah. And then we were like, let's take a video of this so maybe we don't forget, and we'll just like watch it once before the wedding.
Oh my gosh.
We kind of just winged it, but I mean, it worked.
Kudos for you winging it, because it looked awesome.
It was super, super fun. I'm a big fan of flash mobs, and also it was one of the most special parts of the wedding, just because it was something that like everyone else was surprised to see, and it was a secret element that we were hiding, and it was a very cool deal.
Nothing like a good dance party to get everybody smiling, keep everybody active. It was good stuff, right? Okay, so being within, I mean, we're barely a month. We're a month.
A month and 2 days, I think.
A month and 2 days married today. So because it's so fresh, talk to me about some things that throughout the entire process, whether that was the planning process or the day of process, like what were some things that you 100% would do again in a heartbeat if you had to get married every single day from now on?
Oh, that's such a good question. I've reflected a lot about the wedding. I feel like this is a pretty cliche answer, but just like the stressing about it, I am very much the type to get stressed out. I wish that I wouldn't have done that, because everything that we ended up doing worked out so well. And I honestly wouldn't change any piece of that day. And I truly have racked my brains around like, what would I have done different? Was there anything that kind of went wrong, or anything that really went wrong? If there was, I didn't notice it, and it did not impact the day at all. I wouldn't change anything about it, other than the stressing and the wondering and letting my brain go off. Well, what if this happens? What if this happens? Sure. I think just trusting in the planning process and trusting in my vendors. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of people that are there on your wedding day to make sure everything goes well. So there's no point in you stressing more than you need to about that.
One of the things that we talk about a lot of times with our clients is the idea of getting the balls rolling down the hill, right? So at the beginning of this process, you're rolling all these balls down the hill, trying to get it all put together, and then eventually you just have to let them roll and kind of do their thing. And 95% of the time, 99.5% of the time, when something doesn't happen the way you think it should, or as it was planned, you're the only person in the room that didn't know, or that knows that it didn't happen that way, right?
Right.
So that insight and that ability to just let it go and enjoy it and let it be part of the story, let it be that quirk that showed up, and embracing that. That's one of the things that we also love about you, is that I don't think you've ever had a bad day in your life. Everything has a positive spin. Everything has a, oh, that was cool because it was different than what I was expecting it to be, but cool, look at what happened here, right? And how that can just, if you can walk into your wedding day with that kind of attitude, you're in for an awesome day, right?
Totally.
There's some good stuff on your plate going forward.
And I should say too, you guys know this about me, and most people that know me know this about me, but that is not really my day to day. Like the fact that I went through my whole wedding day and was not stressed about anything and did not feel like a control freak, that shocked myself. Because just normally at work and in a lot of aspects of my personal life, I am very much planner. It has to go this way. If it doesn't go this way, I'm going to freak out. But I had been told by so many people to not overstress and overthink things. And I genuinely think that every time someone reminded me that, it worked. And it just kind of reminded me to center myself and focus on what's important. So if you're also a stressed girl like I am, and like Gianna, I know that you are too, it can be done. Like it honestly just takes you just have to be very intentional about it, very intentional about how you're going to show up that day and in the planning process too.
And you were very much so in the planning process. You've told me, I guess, several times about ways that you use to alleviate your stress.
Yes.
So would you like to share that for everyone
I
else?
would love to share. Yes. I shared my wisdom with Gianna. So, pretty early on in the wedding planning process, I found myself just getting stressed and sad, and I would cry because I was stressed and I was so dramatic. I'm like, you know what? I need a solution to this. So, I ended up ordering online a little like $10 white veil that had a little hair piece in it. And I forced myself to wear that veil. It was like really long. It was like an 8-foot veil. Like it touched the floor. And I forced myself to put that on every time I sat down in my apartment to wedding plan, because it just reminded me every time I would walk past the mirror, it's not that serious. And you stop crying. Like you're so dramatic. It's fine. This should be fun. You should be having fun. And it was like at times it would genuinely make me laugh. I'm like, this is ridiculous. One time I accidentally left my blinds open. We're on the ground floor. One of our neighbors walked by and totally saw me in sweatpants, sweatshirt. Like I think my hair was wet and I was just wearing this extravagant veil. And it was just like closed the blinds really awkwardly. So that was just a silly thing. But like honestly, the message there is just remind yourself to have fun and don't take yourself too seriously and don't take the planning too seriously.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we talked about this a little bit with you. You've never had a bad day. Your positive outlook on the day, on every day is incredible, and I think that helps with this process. One of the things that I was really impressed with on your wedding day was how well the people around you seemed to be communicated with. As far as like helping and whatnot. One of the ways that we see a lot of brides get stressed on their wedding day is by having too many things to do themselves on that day, right? Hey, I got to hurry up and go fix this table centerpiece. Hey, I got to go get the cake table laid out. Hey, I got to get, and you just become this like tactician. And then by the time you get all those things done, you're stressed. You're late. Oh gosh. And that just adds to the whole thing. And you seemed to have a crowd and a team around you that was very well organized and whatnot. How did you accomplish that? What was your tactic there? Was that just the kinds of people that you had around? Was there some sort of a directive? Like where were you at with that? And how did we get to that piece where everything seemed to just go and it was perfect and you seemed stress-free and it was awesome?
Yeah, I was stress-free, and that is largely in part to the people that I had there. So we ended up having the venue just for the day of our wedding. So we got access at 8 a.m. and then had to be out by midnight. So at 8 a.m., my sister, who was my maid of honor, we showed up. Shortly after that, my mom showed up, and then bridesmaids kind of trickled in. So really, we just started setting things up right away, and that was a group effort. I was involved in that. My grandparents were there too. They're amazing. So we probably started with 5 or 10 people there, rolling out the chairs, doing all the basic setup things. And then when it was time for me to start getting ready, there was kind of a moment where I panicked a little. I'm like, I feel like we need all hands on deck right now, but I need to go and get ready. That went away so quickly because there were a couple of extra people we had on hand. My mom honestly was like the number one. She kind of delegated tasks. So she was in charge of decorations. So, she probably did one table. I don't know, because I wasn't out there for this. I imagine she set up one table as it should be. And then my grandma and my aunt and my bridesmaids kind of just started tackling the rest of the room. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so all of that was taking place while I was getting my hair and my makeup done, and I was just having a blast in there. And then when I walked out and the whole room was set up, it was just like the greatest feeling ever. I will say, I think that something that was really helpful from my perspective, and also my mom and everyone else that was kind of on setup duty, just having a couple of extra people there, not really with any specific task in mind, but just being there for certain favors. Like, hey, can you steam my dress? Can you steam my veil? Hey, we need someone to go grab waters, or hey, we forgot this. Will you please go do that? There was a lot of that going on that morning, and half of it I probably didn't even know about. But we just had a few people on deck readily available. It ended up being my two cousins that were there, and just in what I saw in passing, they were doing a lot and they helped with a lot of things. So that's maybe one piece of advice I would give is, yes, you have your, probably your bridesmaids and your mom and whoever else they're helping. But maybe if you have some friends or family members that are willing to just be there the day of, I would do that. I would have them there because you never know what'll come up.
You reminded me of a story, and I'm allowed to tell this one because I haven't told this one in the podcast before. Gianna reminded me last week that there's a story floating around through all of these episodes. If you can find that story and hear it multiple times, A, I'm sorry, but B, you'll know what it is. Anyway, this is a new story along that same line around having extra hands around for whatever random task. You would be amazed at the random things that pop up as a task on your wedding day or right before the thing. We decided when I got married that we wanted to use one of our engagement photos that was cut into a jigsaw puzzle as our guest book, right? So the idea was that we would put this whole thing together, people would sign it, and then we would, as we put it back together, we got to see everybody's messages and everything. Well, okay, cool. There's a lot of things happening the night before your wedding, the day of your wedding. Do you have time to go put like a 300-piece jigsaw puzzle together? Absolutely not, right?
Nope.
So what did we do? We pawned this off on the young cousins, like, hey, got a task for you here, right? And we handed them a puzzle, like, this is sweet. So they went through and they put the whole thing together. It gave them something to do. I think we touched on this last time, was you would be amazed at the people that are around you. And if you've done your job by bringing the right people into your network for this day, they want to help. They want something to do. They're going to do their best for you because they understand how important this thing is to you. So giving them the opportunity to be a part of that and to participate in that by offering whatever level of skill that they have to do whatever the thing, like many hands make light work on this process, right? And the better you can communicate through that process as the bride to whoever's doing that, right? So you have an idea, you tell your mom sets up the table, and then everybody runs from there.
Yep.
That takes a ball out of your hands that then you don't have to worry about that, right? The whole idea of rolling the ball down the hill, eventually you're not going to have any of the balls in your hands anymore. You're going to let those things roll, and as they land is how they land. So that's a great point, and hopefully you as the listener can kind of pick up on getting the right people and communicate properly there. So.
Yeah, that's huge.
Okay, I kind of want to, before we get too far crazy ahead, I want to bring us back to the planning process just a little bit.
Yes.
Can you tell me, is there anything that you wish you would have done differently or done sooner in your process of planning?
Yes. So I would say that the hardest piece of all of the planning was just putting together the finalized day of timeline. So the schedule for the day of the wedding, that is something that 1 year out, I felt like I needed to have down. I'm like, I need to know exactly what time this is going to happen and this is going to happen, which so quickly found out that is not realistic at all. And I don't think I ended up finalizing the day of timeline until the week of the wedding. And that pained me as a planner, but there's just so many pieces that aren't even going to happen on your timeline. You're communicating with other vendors, you're waiting on family members to find out their travel plans, and you just can't do that. It's not realistic. So I think for me, that was the most difficult piece because, you had all of the big things booked, you had all of the biggest, most essential parts of the day planned, but then it's like, okay, what time do we need to have bridesmaids ready? What time do I need to be putting my dress on? What time do we need to be snuck away beneath the chapel so that our guests can't see us, right? Like those last minute kind of game day decisions you have to make sure everything flows well. So that was the hardest thing for me. And then as far as some things that I wish I would have done sooner, it's mostly ceremony based for me. So as a little backstory, I am not Catholic, but my husband is. So we got married in the Catholic Church. And little did I know, that's quite different from doing a non-Catholic wedding. So there were just some pieces to that as far as marriage preparation that not only took, I had to learn about them, but it took a few months to get all of those items checked off of our list. It didn't really help that Tug was at an army training for 4 months leading up to the wedding. So he got back late October and we had our December wedding. So it ended up being crammed into like this month and a half long period where we had to do like all of these things, if you're Catholic, these things will probably sound familiar to you. We had to do our premarital inventory check. We had to do, a lot of paperwork, a lot of questionnaires. We had to meet with our priest several times. So it was just a lot of moving pieces that I didn't anticipate having to handle. Along with that, I'm probably just dumb for not knowing this, but I didn't realize we had to coordinate our own musicians and music for the ceremony. So that was something like a month before our wedding. I had this, I should probably figure out if that's just provided for us. And it wasn't. And it all worked out. I mean, we got it figured out, but I wish that I would have met with our officiant, I guess would be the generalized way to say that. If I'm kind of forming this as advice, meet with your officiant well ahead of time. That's just something that you can do early, and it helps to do early. Figuring out your music would definitely be a good thing too. And then kind of a silly, small thing, but it would have been kind of bad if I didn't do this. We also waited to order my band, my wedding band, and Tug's ring until he got home from his training. So that was also like a month-long window where we were kind of, I don't know, we used a local vendor here, so it was totally fine. But again, not like me to procrastinate on those things. So I wish I would have done those a little bit sooner.
Yep. Makes sense.
Yep.
You had a little bit of an untraditional wedding dress path.
Yes.
Talk about that, because Gianna's excited. She just got
I
her
wanna
dress.
know.
Gianna just got her
Yay!
dress this last weekend, and she wants to know more.
And
about
she's stunning. We have to wait for the reveal on that one, but she looks beautiful. So yes, I got my wedding dress off of Etsy. And it was kind of a leap of faith. I had a couple of friends that had ordered their wedding dresses off of Etsy, and they were beautiful, and they highly recommended it. I was still a little bit nervous just because you really never know what you're going to get until it's on your doorstep. But yeah, I ended up ordering my dress. I think I ordered it in the spring, so I ordered it, over 6 months in advance. I had no idea really like when it would get to my doorstep. It was from Switzerland, and it was a pretty simple dress. I will say, if I was doing a dress that was, I don't know, had like lace or beading or anything, that might have been a little bit trickier. But my dress was very simple, strapless dress, just like silky looking, pearly looking, A-line. So I figured, how bad could it really be? I don't know. That was probably not the greatest mindset, but I was like, whatever. So yeah, I ordered my dress off Etsy. I sent in like my personalized measurements and all that. My mom and I just whipped out a measuring tape and did that. And it was amazing. The dress was great. It was like $475, which I feel like I should share
half
because
the price
yeah,
of most dresses. Yeah.
totally. I feel like it's kind of taboo to talk about how much your wedding dress costs, but I'm like, look, I did go and do the whole trying dresses on in a shop in person with my mom and my sister, and that was super fun. That was really helpful for learning what style I liked on me and what fit I liked. But yeah, I ended up not buying any in store and just going on Etsy to buy them. So as long as you're using a reputable, highly rated seller on Etsy, totally recommend.
And it kind of changed the timeline of that process. I think one of the pieces of that puzzle that not everybody understands is that traditionally, and Gianna's finding this out,
Yes.
the wedding dress takes a lot longer to receive and create and all that stuff. You're supposed to get on this with it. What,
Like 9 months
12
in
to 9
advance.
months ahead of
Yeah.
your wedding.
I mean,
Yeah.
I was absolutely shocked. I mean, yes, I purchased my wedding dress on last Saturday, and I was like all excited thinking that, it was going to get here soon,
Yeah.
and then we'd have plenty of time to do alterations. But then they told me it would be at least 4 months before it even arrived. So I went into the
Wow.
dress store. I found my dress. I said yes to the dress.
Woo-hoo.
And then we filled out all the paperwork. And because the dress in the store was not in my size, we had to order it. And so that's the other hesitation, is like, it does take longer, even if you're buying a dress and you're not planning on doing alterations. It
Right.
still takes a good 4 months from most vendors, and if not more. So
And you said, how long did yours take?
Oh gosh, like
As
from
far
when
as,
I
like, when
placed
you
it.
ordered to,
Oh gosh,
like-
2 weeks
Yeah.
probably. Yeah, maybe 3
wait,
weeks.
2 weeks from when you ordered it to when it was at your doorstep?
Received it.
Yes,
Oh my gosh.
it was so quick.
But then there was, you didn't
then
do a ton of
alterations.
alterations and all that kind of stuff. But
No, but I will say, like, as we're kind of talking pros and cons of buying online versus buying, traditionally in person, I did end up needing some alterations. They ended up being more significant than I thought they would have been. 100% user error. Like, I think my mom and I just did not know how to properly measure. You know, it's like 14 sets of measurements, and you think the waist is this, but then it's actually 2 inches lower and whatever. So I did end up having to go and get alterations, which was fine because I had enough time. But I will say that would have been nice. So, like, for example, you and my sister, who I was with during this whole process, she ended up having to get some alterations too. But it was really nice because she's like, oh, I have an appointment scheduled out, you know, in 2 months, and I'm going to tell them I want to take it in here and fix it here, and then I know it's going to be perfect, and they're going to keep it for me so that it doesn't get all bunched up.
Yep.
My wedding dress, I am ashamed to say, was in fact stuffed into a Costco garbage bag for about 6 months. And that wasn't great, but I had no other option because we were living in a teeny apartment. I couldn't let my fiance at the time see it. I had to keep it hidden. So there's pros and cons.
Yeah.
Yes, it was cheaper. Yes, it was faster, but I ended up having to do a little bit extra work to make sure it fit and make sure that, you know, it wasn't just a crumpled mess on my wedding day.
Yeah. Happens.
Yeah. You know.
Just the casual places people keep wedding dresses.
Yeah. Garbage bag.
Costco.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Shout
Whatever.
out Costco.
Thanks, Costco.
That's
This is
awesome.
a total squirrel of a wedding tip, though. But did you know if you bought alcohol from Costco, you can return
Yes.
even like single bottles of wine back to Costco?
You sure
if
can.
you order all your alcohol for your
What?
wedding, do that.
And they do actually a lot. If you are looking for a vendor that provides everything, go to Costco. They have a whole wedding section on their website, and I've done a lot of
No.
research into it. And I was going to do the alcohol, but my venue doesn't allow outside alcohol. But yes, so you can
devastated I
literally
didn't know
get
this.
carts of seltzers and beer and wine and champagne and use whatever you use at your wedding. And the next day or the next week or whatever, you just drive it back to Costco and they pay you to
That
take it
is
back. So yeah.
Amazing. Wow.
Yes, they have that. They do floral bouquets. They do travel trips. They do. This is literally a shout out Costco here.
There you go.
But yeah,
Sponsorship pending.
yeah.
Get that membership card.
Yes, get your membership card. It is severely worth it.
Wow. The more you know.
Yeah. So now back on topic. We're getting away from Costco. Tell me a little bit more about your wedding day and what were your favorite parts? What are things that you would 100% do again every single time?
In 10 years, what are you going to remember? Like,
Yes.
If you had to think about that day, like what's going to bring you back?
I think when I reflect on my wedding day, there were so many special parts, but the one part of the day that I think was probably the most special and that I will never ever forget is when Tug and I did our first look and we did private vows. It was such a necessary aspect to our day because it was really the only time we were alone. We were both very much social butterflies. And so as soon as we got to the reception and our family and our friends were there, we were pulled in two different paths and it was totally fine. I
You don't have to be a social butterfly on your wedding day to
Yeah.
not get only 13 seconds with your
Right.
with your groom that day. That's a total wedding thing, right?
Right.
So carving out that time is important.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, it was really the only time in the day where it was just the two of us. And I loved doing the private vows. So again, we weren't able to do our own vows in the church because we were in the Catholic Church and you just do the vows that are provided for you, which, you know, was totally fine. But I knew that I wanted to do vows in some capacity. So I was really excited when you guys suggested that as a potential idea kind of for our timeline. And Tug was actually really receptive and excited about that too. And it was really cool in a way that I didn't expect because you do the first look and you both look incredible. I mean, Tug looked so handsome and I could tell he was emotional looking at me. And so there's that beautiful moment, right? You're just taking it in like, this is going to be my husband. This is going to be my wife in an hour. And then doing the private vows was really cool because at least for me, I was almost just at a loss for words. It was such a special moment. And you're just thinking about, you know, I just love this person so much, but like, there's really nothing to talk about. Like you look at each other and you look amazing and you hug and you're maybe crying. But without the vows, I don't really know what would have happened next. Instead, we got to open our vow books and speak from the deepest parts of our hearts and tell each other, you know, what what we've been thinking about building up to this day. And like, that was just really cool to be able to, in this super special moment, have something that I have spent, hours thinking about and writing so that it communicates just how much I love him and why I love him. And I get to say all of those things and no one else is there. And that's something that I'll cherish forever. And hearing his vows, I mean, I think I cried like 5 separate times during that. It was really emotional and just set the tone for the day. It really grounded us and like, yeah, we're about to go, celebrate the biggest party of our lives, but this is why we're doing it. It's you and me.
Right.
This day should be about you and me and its roots. And it was just a super cool way to kind of set that tone.
You guys wrote from the deepest parts of your hearts, and we could tell from that, right? Like not only the emotions of it, but just your grasp of what this adventure of marriage is. One of the things that I get a little nervous about with younger couples is the idea of, do they understand what they're getting into here, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of ups and a lot of downs and a lot of just navigating this process that is marriage, right? And you guys were beyond your years in terms of the wisdom that came out of your mouths in that moment, because you guys had the time to stop and think about it. And you guys portrayed that to each other perfectly. And that was fun for us to be around and be able to listen to. Wait till you get your wedding video back, because all that stuff's going to be in there.
I'm so excited. Well, I also, if I can interject really quick, I will say I didn't really know how that would go. As I knew that you guys were doing photos and video for us. I hadn't really thought about like, what does that look like? Like, are we going to have a mic shoved in our face, or, what does that look like? I want to have this moment captured, and yet I want it to be very intimate. And I can honestly say I wouldn't even be able to tell you guys were there. I mean, you were there and you had your cameras and you captured the whole thing beautifully as far as the photos I've seen. But it was very much like we're the only 2 people in this world. So kudos to you guys on how you structured that. I've seen videos of some people's other first looks, and they can look really different. It can be very much narrated, like, okay, walk up and put your right hand on his right shoulder, and now pause for a moment, and now turn, and you're crying. And, everyone, to each their own. Everyone might want to have it a little bit different. You might want to have it a little more structured, but it was very, very natural, just super genuine, raw reactions. That was really cool how that was executed.
I think one of our approaches to that is there are certain parts of the day that we are totally capable and understand that, like, hey, let's go take control of this, right?
Right.
When we're trying to get the family photos organized, you need a bowl.
Yep.
And you need somebody to wrangle the bowls in there, right? You need somebody to take over, and that's all great. There are certain times of the day where it's important to let the emotion be what it is, right? Mm-hmm. And back out and let them do their thing, because everybody does it differently, right? And I don't want a MTV, live crew in my face as I'm trying to explain to my future spouse, like, this is the biggest day. Well, okay.
Yes.
And then here's my microphone here. Make sure you talk into this thing. Right. So
Anyway,
I just wanted to comment on that you guys did such a great job of communicating that. And it was fun for us to be around and see that.
Thank you.
After the wedding, like, what was your guys' mindset? Like, did you debrief through the wedding? Where did you go from there?
We ended up doing a honeymoon right after our wedding. And by right after, I mean 2 days later. So we got married on Saturday. We had Sunday to kind of reset, and we left on Monday. We flew to Cabo. We did a week in Cabo. It was amazing, all inclusive. That was great. That was a really good decision on our parts, for both planning a honeymoon and for doing it right after the wedding. So, number one, the honeymoon was just so necessary. After, again, like I talked about, yes, your wedding is for you, but the moments that you get just the 2 of you to enjoy it are really limited. When you go on a honeymoon, it gives you the time to just sit with just the 2 of you. And while you're drinking pina coladas out on the beach, you can talk about all of the cool elements and the things that you hadn't really gotten the chance to catch up on. I also really liked having the day in between our wedding and leaving, because, well, number one, we were exhausted, so we kind of just needed to chill for a day. But it was also fun because all of our family stuck around for the most part. And so, everyone kind of just slept in, and then we ended up ordering a bunch of bagels, and we had coffee and mimosas, and just kind of, everyone's hungover, everyone's tired, but you have an opportunity to reflect on the funniest moments and the coolest moments and just be with your people and not feel so rushed right after the fact.
Plus the fact that you've invited all of these people, all these family members, all of these, like it's your crew. They're all there, right? And they have made an effort to come hang out with you guys. To each their own. I always, like if you wanted to take your honeymoon, and we've actually had clients that literally drove out of the wedding right to the airport and jumped on a plane and went to their honeymoon.
Oh, wow.
Right? Which I think is a little bit of a bummer because you've worked hard to get all of these people in the room and be there with you. Why not have that extra day? Why not have these extra opportunities to enjoy their time? Because you probably only got 30 seconds with them on your actual wedding day, right? As you're bopping around the room, you only get 10 seconds. Oh, hey, nice to see you. Thanks for coming. Oh, this is awesome. Okay, cool. And then you get ripped to the next thing and off you go, right? But having that little bit of a buffer time is great. The other joke I was going to talk about is the idea that when we see a bride after her wedding day, she is so done making decisions at that point because she just spent the last year and change making decisions on every little thing from color of napkins to color of dresses to what time we're doing all these things, right? So taking a honeymoon, going to Cabo, having a pina colada and just staring at clouds on the beach.
Yes.
Completely necessary.
So necessary. And it was something that I was kind of against at first, actually. So we paid for our own wedding. And so, that was a big part of choosing the timeline. Why did we give ourselves, as much time as we did to plan? I mean, it was standard. It was about a year, but that was definitely a factor. What's our budget going to be? This is coming out of our own pockets, so we got to make sure that it's reasonable. So initially I'm like, there is no way we're pulling off a honeymoon. Like, that's going to be too stressful. It's going to be extra money. But after talking to people, again, just this like talking to your friends and people who have gone through it, who have been married, I'm really glad that I had those discussions with people that went on honeymoons and that didn't go on honeymoons, because pretty much the consensus was do it. You have no other time to do that in your life. Yes, you can take couples trips, and yes, you can, say that you're going to do it the year after once you kind of get back on your feet, but it doesn't always end up happening that way. And I think doing it right after is just a really, really cool way to like live out the high. Like the post-wedding blues are so real. Everyone knows that. Even if you've just attended a wedding or like been in a wedding, it's kind of a harsh, like you're going 100 miles an hour. It's the best day ever. And then, Sunday scaries to the max. Like you got to drive home and then you got to go to work on Monday. And the more I thought about that, the more I realized, let's draw out this special occasion while we can. And we made it work, and it was the best decision ever.
By using Costco.
Costco Travel. Shout out to Costco Travel. Thank you.
We'll wait for Costco's membership.
Yeah.
Costco
Can I get a membership discount now?
Yeah. Or like a free hot dog and soda.
Yeah.
Right. More accurately what we would get.
Yes.
Okay, so take us to 30,000 feet here. So you've just been recently through this process. What would, we've gotten a lot of awesome insight from you, and thank you for that. But tell us, tell this person who is planning their wedding right this second, from a 30,000 foot perspective, what you would recommend, what you would say to that person, like give them something to think about here.
So, number one, just breathe. And as cliche as it is, everything is going to work out just fine. No matter how much you stress about it, if you spend 100 hours stressing or 2 hours stressing, everything is going to turn out just fine. Another thing that I would add, assuming that it would be a bride listening, is incorporate your fiance in the planning process. It not only can take, a little bit of the stress off of your shoulders and alleviate a little bit of those duties, but also it makes it really special. Gianna and I actually have talked about this a little bit. Like, as the bride, typically you're taking on 99.9% of the responsibility. And a lot of that is because you want to, but some of it is just because, you're like, someone's got to do it.
Yeah.
Totally. You feel like you have to. And you're the one that's kind of at the center of all of the planning. But I really enjoyed the few aspects of our wedding that I made a point to sit down with Tug and say, what do you think about this? I'm kind of leaning between these two things. And I was always shocked at his insight and the things that he really did care about, but wasn't going to interject and feel like he was disrupting my plans. For example, when it came down to picking our ceremony music, we did Christmas music because we were, 10 days before Christmas. And I had selected a few different instrumental covers of really pretty Christmas songs that I loved. I assumed that he would not care at all. I assumed he would just, it's music, it's whatever. And he ended up really having a strong opinion. He said, I really want you to walk down the aisle to this song. It kind of makes me almost tear up listening to this and thinking about you walking down the aisle. And that was so cool. And unfortunately, that was super duper close to our wedding. I was like, oh, I really should have involved you in so many more decisions. But so, that's just kind of a learning experience, is involve your spouse if you can, because then it makes it a lot more special for the two of you. And it really should be a teamwork aspect. And it was. Mm-hmm. I mean, it definitely was teamwork when you look at across the board, all the things we had to do. But don't take it all on yourself. And that goes for friends and family as well. There are so many people, most likely, that want to help you with your wedding day. And they want to help with as much as they can. So delegate. Take advantage of that. It's going to mean a lot to them if you let them help you. And it's going to feel so much better to you to have even just a handful of tasks taken off of your list. So that would probably be my advice.
I love it. I love it. I think there's going to be a lot of great information out of this. I think people are going to get a lot of cool things from this.
I hope so.
I know you can't see us on film, but I feel like we should watch the ceremonial handling off of the wedding planning notebook from one to the next. One bride,
yes.
one now married person to the up and coming married person.
I already sent Gianna my budget.
Yep, I
Excel
just
sheet.
requested the budget Excel sheet last week. So.
It's in the works. Don't worry.
Yes.
Love it. Thank you so much for all of your insights. Thank you for taking the time to come down and talk to us. Your day was amazing. You're amazing. And I think the information that you just gave to everybody on here is amazing. So thank you for sharing all that. Our plan going forward is to have more people just like this, newlyweds that have just gone through the process and know what worked, what didn't. And hopefully the information that they give you is going to be just as awesome as we got today. So
not only newlyweds, we will also have people that are not freshly married and it's been 3 or 4 years or 5 or 6 years, and give you the insights from all sides of the table.
That's our goal. So we started talking about this day by having a dance party. Gianna's itching to push the button to start another dance party here as we go out. So make sure you check back in next week. We'll have some more awesome information. Thank you for being awesome. Ready, set, dance party.
Wicca, wicca. What's your signature dance move?
This.
She nailed that. That was right on beat.
Do we do it every week?
It's no Mariah Carey to Pitbull transition.
Well, she doesn't have a wife beater on her head like a turban.
But it turns out that's a copyright infringement on our side, so we'll just let this one play out.
Okay, bye.
Boom. Love you. Bye. Want your questions answered on the podcast? Are you newly married or engaged, or are you a wedding vendor wanting to be a guest on the show? Want weekly tips and insights sent right to your inbox? Send us a message at www.floatingleafstudios.com/2togspodcast.
And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.